This is the first lesson of the third portion and the final portion of our class, when we will address the project scheduling and control. So for today's lesson, we have following objective: explain and develop work breakdown structure, WBS, organizational breakdown structure, OBS, and the responsibility assignment matrix, RAM. Then we categorize project schedule and scheduling method, estimate activity duration, and develop work sequences or relationship. So that will prepare for you also to do project tools, the final project we have in this class. Before we get into this class, I just want to go over the reference for the quiz and the exam 3, the last exam in this class. So this is the reference. Unlike previous portions, when we have multiple pages, we only have 2 pages for the reference in the exam 3 that you have to see here. So for today's class, the concept of work breakdown structure, problem 1, organizational breakdown structure, responsibility assignment matrix, RAM, project schedule and scheduling method, and step to develop schedule, that I will cover in the slide and the lesson video, and the first lesson videos is this one. Project scheduling process, and as you can see in the objective that we discussed, we have talking about WBS, work breakdown structure, and OBS, organizational breakdown structure, and the interface between this, we have the responsibility assignment matrix. How do you eat a cow? In this case, the elephant, or let the elephant eat you. I just make a joke here, but as you can see, elephant never eat people. But as you can see, to eat something big, you have to use one bite at a time. And that a metaphor applied for the project. How to manage this project. This is a picture from the California Memorial Stadium, UC Berkeley, where I graduated from. And this one, how to manage this big complex project. Of course, just metaphor, like to eat a cow, we need to one bite at a time. To manage this project, we need to break it down into pieces. And that systematic process to break it down project into pieces, we call that a work breakdown structure. So WBS, work breakdown structure. How? This is the step. Identify the final products of the project. And then to help us to define the product's major deliverables for the project. What are the major deliverables? What are the products? What are the outcomes for the project? And with that, we can decompose the major deliverable into the level of detail appropriate for the management or integrated control. It means that it depends on the level of management. You can manage different layers of detail. If we go down to the workers, then the lowest detail that we can have. And then we can keep review and define the work breakdown structure. For example, if we have scope change or the current work breakdown structure is not meeting what we want for the project, then we can, or we want when we plan, then we can refine, review, update the work breakdown structure. Give you an example. This is a gas steam combined power plant. So you have the major heat recovery steam generator. Here you have a cooling tower, because this is hot water administration, control, warehouse, and then we have area water treatment for this power plant. And that basically we can break it down, that project, into different areas, and different function. For example, from that one, you can break it down into the gas, steam, and interfaces. Just like you see there, the gas get in, steam, and then interfaces between those. And then in the gas, we have a turbine, the generator to get the power. And then we have a compression station. And of course, compression station, we can have multiple compressor. Then compressor 1, 2, 3. And then each compressor, you need to have the design. We have the procurement to buy compressor. And then have someone to install. And those in the lower level, we call it work packages. So as you can see, have multiple layer of details. And same continue for other time of work. If you keep continue to break down the generator, the turbine, etc. If the project become complicated, a graphical presentation like this is difficult to present, and we can do it in a spreadsheet, as I showed you in the project in the Edward Sport project, as you already know that we talked very first day of the class. So this is the site plan, and this is the you can see same a cooling tower in here, and there is multiple areas, so they can break it down into different areas, and they can name that different areas in here. Gasification, slurry, preparation, CO2 processing, all of that. Gray water rack, so that more with environmental engineering, so that you can see here that can break it down into a smaller area, smaller pieces, so that we can continue to break it down further for the work breakdown structure for the project. So as you can see that there. So that is one example. Let's continue in this slide. And then other type of project, just like institutional or warehouses or office building. You have site work, on-site utilities, and the building itself. In the buildings, we have office building, maintenance building, warehouse building. So that the second level you have site work, civil work, paving, etc. So, and then each you can continue break down further. For example, office building, we have architectural work, structural, mechanical, electrical. In structural, we have foundation for the shell. It means the wall, steel structure, concrete structure, work packages. That's the lower level that you have. So that's another way that you can break down the work breakdown structure. That is work breakdown structure. And then that is what will be done. The second is who going to do it. That is the organizational breakdown structure, OBS. So a depiction of the project organization, so that to relate the work packages to the organizational unit. And the direct relationship between the work breakdown structure and the OBS identified through the responsibility assignment matrix. What does that mean? You have what to be done, you have the who going to do it, interface between those two. So you see the responsibility, this individual, this unit, this company going to take care a certain type of work. And that interface we call responsibility assignment matrix. And let's go back to another example before we touch on the problem one. Continue with the Edward Sport power plant project. And you can see in the previous example, I show how they use to break down the project. The second concept is the organizational breakdown structure and responsibility assignment matrix. And in this case, and you can see that this one, the division of responsibility, to same as the we're talking about the responsibility assignment matrix. So for each of the work, so what that's shown in the second column there. Then you have the step, process scope, system scope, and different time of work, balance, piping and instrumentation, all of that here, and it will identify who responsible. GE, so if you go down to that, what is GE? It stands for General Electric, B stands for Bechtel, O owner, PFD, process flow diagram, utility balance, utility flow diagram, all of that, take who responsible for. And as you can see, you can just get any of the work that we have. For example, number 5, black water flash. Black water flash. So it means the water need to be treated, and that the responsible for PFD. What PFD? Process flow diagram. It will be taken care by General Electric. General Electric. And then when you go to work, issue for construction, IFC, issue for design, that it will be Bechtel. B stands for Bechtel. So those are the work involved and who are responsible in what part for that work. It will be responsible. That we call it responsibility assignment matrix, and that apply for this project that we use multiple times in this class. So that is responsibility assignment matrix. And in the worksheet we have a project problem 1 that very simple. Create the work breakdown structure for the building of a house with the layout below. So this is kind of fancy house, as you can see here. So we try to make a simple here. How can we break it that down? So you have the main houses, you have the deck, we have a gazebo, you have swimming pool. All of that you can break it down in those different areas, and that in face-to-face class, what I do is I ask you to break it down in your own understanding of how to manage a big residential single family unit just shown in problem 1, and how you break it down. If here I suggest you to pause and then continue to see what it have in here. So that is the work breakdown structure for that house. So you have major here, the house itself, the main houses, and then the swimming pool, gazebo, landscape. And in her house you have multiple areas. Talk about the shell, the wall, etc. You have superstructure, exterior, enclosure, the roofing. So and then you can break it down other work, and that is what to be done. And then the other step, we talk about the organizational breakdown structure, OBS. And in this case, you have assume you learn from project delivery method. We learn the design build. So I assume this is design builder. Take care of both design and construction work. So you have a design consultant, you have subcontractor 1, 2, 3. And responsible in which area, and that the interface between the OBS and WBS, one is what, the other is who, we call it responsibility assignment matrix. Just show you how it applies in the Edward Sport project. Example here, and the way it matrix, and you can see there a row and there a column. When we say that here, the interface superstructure will be sub number 3. Exterior enclosure, it will be sub 1. Roofing, it will be sub 3. So things like that, we call it responsibility assignment matrix, interface of who doing what in the project. And that we call it RAM, responsibility assignment matrix, as I showed you the Edwards project, the real project in a few minutes earlier. So responsibility assignment matrix can go further detail. So instead of just say who doing this, you can say the level of responsibility for certain work. Example in here, R defined by the responsible, S for support required, C must be consulted, N must be notified, A approve required, and get reviewer. So in one task, example here, let's see activity C, you have you responsible, and then you have ASBIT, it will be S is support required, sponsor, it got approval required, and then G, get reviewer, functional manager. so that you can see that is the more level of detailed responsibility within one activity, as you see there. So from that one, you learn from work breakdown structure. Then one of the key major part of this portion of our class is to develop a schedule. So project scheduling. How to do that? First, you break down the scope of work into manageable portion, namely activity, that we call it work breakdown structure. I just presented a few minutes earlier, WBS. And actually you apply that in your project one. You break down our project into pieces, and then you pricing for each of those pieces or work packages or that portion. That step should be done by now. And then the next step to develop schedule is estimate each activity duration. In the first step, you find out activities, the list of activity. Now we estimate the duration for each activity. And then when you have duration, you have the list of activity. We need to determine the sequence, the relationship among those activities. Not all activity work in linearly, so we need to find out the relationship. And then we find the earliest and latest possible time for the execution of those activities. And then from that sequence and the time for each activity, you can be able to find out the project critical sequence. So what is the longest path for the sequence? And then of course we keep review, optimize, communicating, updating, because your plan will change. Just think about your plan to graduation. Not all plan that you start when you get into campus at the freshman and then go to now at the senior level, your plan to graduation changing. Same here, project schedule, you need to update and then revise of that. So there are many steps. Today class, we focus on the first three, and I shown you in problem one and just example that address problem step number one. Now in the problem two, we will address the estimated each activity duration, and that in problem two. And then problem three, we will show you how to establish the sequence relationship among activities. And these two steps become one of the major parts that you need to apply in your project two. So keep that in mind next week when we talk about project two. Today lesson also important initial step for you to develop your own schedule for the project that you submitted in project one.